Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here, and today we're looking at the question, is there such a thing as bad art? Yes. Yes, there is. Whether or not art can be bad is a personal question, because before you can determine that, you have to first know what art is. Despite that we have dictionaries that tell us these things, you might be surprised to learn that people don't always agree on what the term art means. Some believe it's anything done through traditional means like paper and pencil. Some believe it's what society dictates. And others simply think that any and everything is art. But I'm not here to tell you what everyone else thinks. I'm here to share my own personal thoughts because, despite not having a degree in the field or any education in it whatsoever, my definition of art is perfect.
And that's a fact.
The way I see it, art takes two vital ingredients: an idea and a way to express that idea outwardly. That way to express can be any tool whatsoever. If you have one without the other, then it isn't art. A guy just throwing random colors onto a blank page is not art, even if he manages to make the Mona Lisa, because there was no intention behind the act. Now, if the guy said to himself, I bet I could make something beautiful just by throwing random colors on a canvas, then it would be art. Because now the guy has an idea he wants to express as well as a way to do so. Now to the vital question. Can art be bad? Well, in order to answer the question, I'll use some of my own art as an example. Here's a piece that I drew. I'll give you a few seconds to look at this pic and tell me, what do you think is the idea I'm trying to express? Okay, time's up. This picture is a redone version of the Game Over screen from Zelda 2: Link's Adventure, showcasing my mascots, Random Person and Ellipsis. RP's expression is meant to mimic Ganondorf's, as well as show superiority over the player. Meanwhile, Ellipsis is shrugging due to that being her usual response to most things, as if to demonstrate to the player, well, that's just life sometimes. That was the idea I was trying to express. Is that what you saw? If not, can you see it now that I've explained it? Here's the point I'm trying to make. Do I think there's such a thing as bad art? Yes. The purpose of art is to express an idea. What determines the value of the art is how well the idea is expressed. This is why it's so hard for people to determine whether or not art can be bad, because the only person who truly knows the original intention of the art is the artist themselves, making it difficult for anyone else to suggest otherwise. How attractive or unattractive the work of art is not necessarily a factor. Here's another example of my attempt to mimic the classic Peanuts cartoon, using once again RP and Ellipsis. Notice how off the anatomy of these two characters are and how undisciplined their outline looks. This is not neatly done, and to an outsider's point of view, that might be considered a bad thing. But since I was trying to mimic a style that wasn't neat, being neat would actually make the art bad, as it would not express the idea I was implementing. So, while I do think art can be bad, I believe it's very unhealthy to tell someone their art is bad, or to even ask someone if your art is good. I get people asking me all the time, does this art look good? Or, what do you think? And my response is always, I don't know what you were going for. If you really want critique on your art, be more specific. How does this lighting look? Does the melody catch your attention? Is the diction too complicated? The message you want to get from your critic is whether or not you captured the original idea in the way you wanted to. A stick figure drawing that took 5 seconds to make can be better art than an anatomically correct comic that took days because of how it gets the message across. But by asking which one is better, most people will likely point to the comic. Calling art bad is a habit we need to break out of when we don't understand the original purpose behind the work. Instead of saying, this one is better, it's more truthful to say, this one appeals to myself more as I can relate to the amount of work it must have taken. But Shady, you call artwork bad all the time. What about all those My Little Pony videos where you were criticizing the episodes? Oh, yeah. I guess on drawings I'm a bit more careful with my words. However, the reason I and many other critics will flat out call something bad is because of what I just stated. At that point, we believe we understand what the artist wanted to do, and in our opinions, we believe they failed at it. In my video Why Starlight Glimmer Sucks, I go into detail of what I think the show wanted her to accomplish in the story and why their method of doing that idea didn't work. If you think you understand what the artwork is trying to accomplish and you feel you need to critique it, make sure you understand where you're coming from in terms of what you think the artist wanted. This is why almost all art websites have titles and description sections, so the artist can give you information about the purpose behind the artwork. Now that you understand what this picture means, you can form a valid opinion of whether or not the art is good. And yes, it is still an opinion. Despite my use of various definitions, art is still subjective, which creates another misunderstanding. Some people might think that bad art is something that has a negative result to it. Well, as we say here on Shady Doorags Entertainment, a problem is just a misunderstood opportunity. Just because you may not have conveyed the message you wanted doesn't mean people can't take something away from what you made. A piece of work that was meant to be emotional might make someone laugh. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. That person might have needed a really good laugh. Sure, the art didn't do what you wanted, but it still did something good. And while according to definitions I've given that makes it bad art, it's still art. This is where I think a great deal of confusion lies in determining whether or not art is bad. Because even if a piece of art doesn't represent the idea it was made for, people can still take away from it. And if you can take away from art, why call it bad? Well, the purpose of a knife is to pierce through objects. If a knife is dull, it is a bad knife. But that doesn't mean it's useless. You can still smash things with it or use it as a throwing projectile, etc. I hope you understood that metaphor because I'm not going further into it. Just because something is useful in some way doesn't mean it didn't fail its original purpose. It's a really negative way of looking at it. Let me reverse that. Just because something didn't fulfill its original purpose doesn't mean it can't be useful in some other way. Yeah. That's much more positive. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my definition of art? Do you think there is such a thing as good or bad art? If art can be bad, is it for the reason I stated? Post in the comments and let me know. The way I see it, the purpose of a piece of art is to express an idea. Therefore, bad art must mean the art didn't fulfill that purpose well. However, that doesn't mean people can't take away from it. So don't be afraid to express yourself in the best way you think possible, because no matter what, people can take away from it. Unless you think cutting off your own ear is the best way possible. In which case, yes, be afraid. This has been Shady Doorags. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.